Hey guys, Tommy West here, your host from Loud Media. And guess what? It's competition time.
Are you a drummer? Do you want to be a drummer? Or do you just like shiny things that are cool and loud?
If so, then this competition's for you. All you have to do is do one simple thing.
Head over to our YouTube if you're already here. Good. Hit the subscribe button. We want to get up to 100 people.
Once we hit 100 subscribers, one lucky person, one subscriber, one only, will get a chance of winning a Soul Tone Symbol Custom Brilliant Tommy West Escobar Series Splash. Now, I'm going to bring up some footage of what they look like right now. Ooh, they're pretty, aren't they? They're pretty, aren't they, Alan?
They sure are, Tom. They're shinier than my dad's bald head. If he was bald. He's not. Anyway, once we hit that 100 subscribers, we're going to be picking one very lucky person to win this symbol.
That's right. You could be a winner. So subscribe now.
Welcome to Nerdy by Nature. I'm your host, Alannis Maximus, and today we are going to be talking a little bit about Moon Knight. We'll talk a little bit about his character in the comics, a little bit about the trailer for this Disney Plus season we're getting in March, and some theories I have myself, as well as some things I've been seeing rolling around on the internet. A good starting point, I think, would be to talk a little bit about who Moon Knight is, for those that don't know. He is a character with a dissociative personality disorder. He has multiple personalities. The three ones we see are his main one, Mark Spector. Mark Spector is a former CIA agent and Marine turned mercenary with a bit of a history of violence. The second personality we see is Stephen Grant. Stephen Grant is a kind of millionaire playboy kind of character. And lastly, we have Jack Lockley, who is a cab driver kind of character. In terms of powers, it does vary throughout the years. When he has been more meta, his kind of mainstay powers have been enhanced durability and enhanced strength, enhanced endurance, I guess. That depends, he gets dependent on the lunar cycle. So at night, these powers come to him. He has always kind of also utilized weaponry, but more so these days doesn't have those meta powers and is more focused on him being a expert detective, expert martial artist, and utilizes a lot of high-tech weaponry as well as weaponry in general. So you can kind of see where, especially with that, the comparison to it being a Batman of the Marvel Universe comes in, or one of the incarnations of, despite the differences there. He first appeared in the comic Werewolf by Night. His origin is Mark Spector, as we said, was a mercenary on a job in Sudan, I believe. He was betrayed by one of his colleague mercenaries, mortally wounded. When he was mortally wounded, he was drawn to a statue or shrine of Khonshu, the Egyptian moon god, and found himself completely revived and healed. The reason for this is said that Khonshu revived him to become the moon's knight and to redeem him for a life of violence by then becoming the protector and avenger of the innocent. So, yeah, can compare him to Batman, but definitely has a bit of a unique spin there as well that Batman obviously doesn't have with this mystic side of things. Now, I'd like to touch on a few things we see in the trailer. First being the big bad, we see being played by Ethan Hawke. He has been confirmed to be playing the character Harrow, and this character, in terms of Moon Knight, is a bit more obscure. He only really appears in one comic, to my knowledge. But as the MCU tend to do, they like to change things a little bit, like to amalgamate characters at times, and they also like to put the kind of opposite villain up against the hero in their initial onset. From what we've seen in the trailer, some theories I've read online as well, it looks like it could be that we're seeing an amalgam of Arthur Harrow and the Sun God, Amun-Ra. This is kind of suggested by, you see him with his lackeys there, which is a bit more indicative of the latter. In terms of powers, he's, as far as I know, Amun-Ra, the Sun God, is pyrokinetic, and obviously a bit more of that opposite to Moon Knight by definition, rather than Arthur Harrow himself. Now, whilst we're talking about who's playing who in the series, I don't think we can go past who's playing Moon Knight himself, who is Oscar Isaac. Now, I wasn't huge on this series, but I was pretty big on this character. I like the character. He played Poe Dameron in the Star Wars sequels. I think he's one of the better things about that whole trilogy. And he has also played a role in Marvel movies before. He was in X-Men Apocalypse as none other than Apocalypse himself. Now that, to me, wasn't the greatest interpretation of a Marvel story or characters. Bit of a popcorn flick, but he wasn't terrible in the role. I think it was more let down by the writing and by the movie itself. He had what he had, and I don't think by any means it was a bad job on his part. But having said that, I think we're going to see something really good in Moon Knight, and we're once again going to see an actor who's had a past Marvel role that wasn't the greatest brought into something that's going to be pretty fantastic, which we have seen a couple of times now. One thing I'd like to touch on that we see in the trailer is we do see at one point Harlow with his lackeys. There's a truck on the background, and at another point in the trailer we see Mark Spector, I assume, driving this truck, fighting the lackeys, and he snaps into who I'll assume will be Stephen. As well, just after this, we see the character thrown out of the truck, falling to his death. Now, I think this is going to be a bit of a flashback, where we see him actually blipped or snapped just before impact. And then 5 years later, he's brought back by Professor Hulk and is in the role of Stephen, or the persona of Stephen, I should say. Now, some people have kind of brought up the theory before of people in airplanes, people in that kind of exact situation when they were snapped, would they come back to the exact same point and inevitably plummet to their death or die for whatever reason? The Russos did touch on this with Professor Hulk, that when brought back, they were brought back safely to the ground. They weren't just midair or still falling off a cliff or anything like that. And I have a theory of what we may see moving forward for Moon Knight in terms of maybe team affiliation. And he has at a point been involved with the Heroes for Hire. Now, I've got a bit of a list of characters we've seen roundabouts, or actually have seen in the MCU already, that also have been involved with the Heroes for Hire. Some I don't think we'll see in that kind of thing, but some I think are a good chance, and maybe even a good introduction to the MCU for ones we've seen from the Netflix series. Now, from Netflix, we've already seen Colleen Wing, we've seen Misty Knight, and we've obviously seen the main mainstays of the Heroes for Hire, Luke Cage and Iron Fist. So I think that'd be a good way to maybe bring them in to lead up to something like this. Other heroes that we've seen are going to see in the MCU that have been known to be with the Heroes for Hire. Bit of a list here, but we'll get going. The Hulk, Black Knight, Shang-Chi, Black Widow. Having said that, probably would be Yelena seeing as Natasha is. But I'll continue. We've also seen Falcon, Spider-Man, Hulk, Doctor Strange. All of these people have been affiliated at a point with the Heroes for Hire. As I said, yeah, like Hulk, Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, I don't think they're going to go in that direction. But some of them I think will, and I'd really like to see this as a lead-in for Luke Cage and Iron Fist. And at least with Luke Cage using Michael Coulter, because once again, as I said in the Spider-Man video, he is bloody perfect. Another theory I've seen in terms of a team affiliation rolling around on the internet, which I didn't put together myself because to my knowledge he wasn't really a Midnight Sun, but some of the things we see in the movie with Black Knight leads to that we may be seeing him being recruited by Blade. And they've said that maybe we'll see Moon Knight rolled into that as well, because his powers, seemingly from what we're seeing from the trailer, are on the mystic side of things with the sun god, the moon god rather, and such. So who knows? Who knows? We'll see what we see. Maybe we'll get both, but I think if I was to lead to one, I'd prefer to see the Heroes for Hire. So as I said, I want to see Luke Cage back, and I'd like to see Heroes for Hire series. Lastly, I'd like to touch on some differences it looks like we're seeing in the series as opposed to the comic. First thing is the suit, manifesting out of nowhere, having that bandage motif. Looks really, really bloody cool, the glowing eyes and all. But not something we see so much in the comics. So we do see it at a point. But more so the suit is just battle gear that has been made, not something that manifests out of nowhere. I think it's a cool touch, a cool spin. And I think it might be there a little bit to steer away from the Batman comparison. For newcomers, that might be a little bit off-putting, I think. So I think they're trying to shape Moon Knight to be a bit more of his own thing, which I do like. Another thing is Stephen is not the millionaire role. It looks like he's a dude who just works at the museum and is drawn to the Egyptian exhibit. And he also looks like he may be a bit more of the central persona as opposed to Mark Spector, as in the comics. But that part can't really say for sure. We've only seen the trailer, which doesn't have a whole lot. But I'm excited to see it, and I reckon I'm going to really dig this. I'm looking forward to March to see it there. So I've loved everything that they brought out on Disney Plus as a series. Been a great addition to the cinematic universe. I think that's everything I really want to touch on today. We will revisit this once the series ends. I'll give you a spoiler-free and a spoiler review and thoughts as we did with Spider-Man in an episode. But until then, hey, is that Peter Parker coming in mentioning Spider-Man? He says he subscribed because he wants to win a nifty symbol. Like we saw at the start of the episode, make sure you subscribe, and once we hit 100, we're going to be giving away a symbol. Nice shiny one. And we're going to be doing lots more giveaways like this as well. So stay up to date on things like this. Head over to our Facebook, like, share, subscribe on the channel and on the Facebook. Support us, and we'll give you nifty things and bring you great content. And foremost, thank you very much for those that have. Really appreciate the support. Can't say that enough. And we're going to be bringing more shows to you. So stay tuned for the podcast, for Ranked and Reviewed, and of course here, Nerdy by Nature. Until then, peace.